The capital world of the Zerath Empire was a place of shining towers and endless fear. In the heart of its capital city stood a building unlike any other, a structure older than the empire itself. It was called the Forbidden Hangar. The hangar was massive, large enough to swallow a mountain. Its black metal doors were sealed with layers of ancient locks. Strange glowing symbols ran across its surface, pulsing faintly as if alive. For 10,000 years, no one had dared to open it. The rulers of the Zerath Empire told their people the same story. Inside the hangar rested the Titan of Eternity, a war machine so powerful it had destroyed whole civilizations in a single night. It had been sealed away after the first wars of creation, and legend said that whoever awakened it would either rule the stars or bring doom to all. For generations, emperors had tried to unlock it. None succeeded. Many who touched the door were burned alive by bursts of energy. Others simply vanished. Even the bravest Zerath engineers refused to go near it. The Titan was not a machine to them, it was a god in slumber. But today, the Emperor himself had ordered the hangar to be opened, a mechanic among aliens. Among the workers dragged to the hangar was a man who did not belong. His name was Jack Rains, a human mechanic from Earth. He had not come to the capital by choice. Like many humans, he had been captured during a border skirmish. Treated as a lesser species, good only for labor. Jack had grease-stained hands, messy dark hair, and the tired eyes of someone who had fixed more broken engines than he could count. To the Zerath overseers, he was nothing more than a disposable worker. To Jack, he was just trying to survive one day at a time. As he walked into the massive chamber, he whistled softly. Well, this is one big piece of work. Around him, alien engineers hissed at his casual tone. The Zerath were tall, scaled creatures with sharp jaws and ridged skulls. Their robes glittered with metals and gems. To them, the hangar was holy. To Jack, it looked like a machine. The walls hummed with energy, the floor lined with vents and panels. He could see pistons hidden behind the smooth plating, control systems buried deep under the surface. It didn't look like magic to him. It looked like engineering. Complicated, yes, but still engineering, the Emperor's warning. At the far end of the hangar, the alien Emperor stood on a raised platform. His robes were woven with silver thread, his crown made of blades. His eyes glowed faintly with the genetic modifications of his line. He raised one clawed hand and his voice boomed across the chamber. Behold the Titan of Eternity. For 10,000 years it has waited. Today we shall awaken it. But hear me, all who stand before it. Do not touch what is forbidden. The Titan recognizes no master but destiny. One wrong touch and you will call death upon us all. Every alien engineer bowed their head, trembling. Even the guards, armed with plasma spears, looked afraid. Only Jack stood with arms crossed, looking at the sealed doors. Looks like a hydraulic lock to me, he muttered. Ancient, sure, but the design's not so different from old Earth engines. A Zerath guard struck him across the shoulder with the blunt side of his spear. Silence, human slave. You stand in the presence of gods. Jack rubbed his arm and smirked. God's machines. Where I come from, if it's got gears, I can fix it. Strange familiarity. As the hours passed, the engineers worked cautiously. They scanned the locks with glowing crystals, whispered chants, and performed rituals passed down through generations. Nothing happened. The hangar doors remained sealed. Jack was ordered to carry tools, clean up debris, and stay out of the way. But he couldn't stop staring at the designs carved into the floor and walls. The patterns weren't just symbols, they were schematics. He could see connections between the shapes, lines that reminded him of wiring diagrams. Something about it all felt familiar. Too familiar. When he was a boy, Jack's father had worked on old power plants back on Earth. Jack used to follow him, watching as his father explained boilers, pistons, and circuits. The designs in this alien hangar reminded him of those old lessons, only far more advanced. It was almost as if whoever built this place had thought the same way humans did. The surge late into the evening, the engineers prepared another attempt. They aligned energy crystals along the base of the doors. The Emperor himself stepped forward, raising a ceremonial staff. He struck the ground and chanted ancient Zerath words. The crystals flared, beams of light shooting into the locks. At first, the hangar shuddered, the doors glowing faintly. The Zerath gasped in awe, but then the crystals overloaded, exploding into sparks. Energy crackled wildly across the floor. "Shut it down!" One engineer screamed. Panels burst open, fires breaking out. The entire hangar shook violently. Guards panicked, Shouting as equipment collapsed, without thinking, Jack ran forward. His instincts as a mechanic took over. Sparks and flames didn't scare him, he'd worked in worse. He grabbed a fallen tool and started yanking out jammed pieces of machinery near the control panel. Stupid design, he muttered. They didn't vent the excess charge. No wonder it's frying itself. The touch Jack crouched beside the main console. It was covered in glowing alien runes, but beneath them he saw something else. A panel of smooth metal with faint lines, almost like fingerprints. He reached out to adjust a lever, only to feel the panel hum under his palm. A sharp voice cut through the chaos. "Don't touch that." The alien emperor's shout echoed like thunder. Every Zirath froze, terror on their faces. But Jack's hand was already pressed against the panel. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the entire hangar roared to life, awakening. The ground split as massive cables retracted. The sealed doors groaned, opening for the first time in 10,000 years. Dust and fire blasted outward as a giant shape emerged from the darkness. The Titan of Eternity stepped forward. It was a colossus of black metal and burning light, taller than a skyscraper. Its eyes glowed like suns, its armor etched with ancient lines that pulsed like veins. The floor trembled beneath its steps. The Zerath engineers fell to their knees, crying out in fear. Guards dropped their weapons, some fleeing outright. The Emperor himself stumbled backward, his crown slipping from his head. Impossible. It cannot be. But the Titan did not attack. It turned its head slowly, lowering its gaze toward Jack. The glowing runes on the console shifted, rearranging themselves into letters. Jack stared in disbelief. He could read the words, "System reboot complete, pilot recognized." The Titan's eyes blazed brighter, and its massive head bowed slightly as if in acknowledgement. Jack swallowed hard, his grease-stained hand still on the panel. He whispered the only words that came to mind. "Well, hell, guess I touched the right button." The Titan of Eternity stood inside the hangar like a mountain of steel and light. Its glowing eyes burned through the dust and smoke. The air shook with every movement of its gigantic frame. All around, the Zirath aliens cowered in fear. Engineers covered their faces with their long arms. Guards dropped their plasma spears, and even the proud Emperor stumbled backward. For 10,000 years, their kind had believed this war machine was untouchable, too sacred, too dangerous. Yet here it was, awake again. And it wasn't destroying them. It was staring at the human. A chosen pilot, Jack Rains, the grease-stained human mechanic, stood frozen with his hand still on the glowing panel. His heart pounded so loud he could hear it in his ears. The runes across the console shimmered, and before his eyes they shifted into words he could actually read. Pilot recognized. Human biological signature accepted. Awaiting commands, Jack blinked. "What the hell?" The Zerath Emperor roared, his voice cracking with fury and fear. "No, this is impossible. The Titan answers only to destiny." "Remove your hand, slave." Guards rushed forward, claws raised. But the Titan moved before they could reach Jack. With a sound like thunder, one of the Titan's massive arms lowered, and a shimmering wall of blue energy erupted around the console. The guards were thrown back like ragdolls, crashing into the hangar floor. Gasps and cries filled the chamber. The Titan hadn't killed them, but it had protected Jack. Panic in the court. The Zirath engineers screamed, some dropping flat against the ground. The Emperor's advisors shouted in panic, demanding the Titan be sealed again. "It listens to the human," one cried. "The omens are true. Doom walks among us," another wailed. "Kill him before it's too late," shouted a third. The Emperor's face twisted with rage. His crown tilted, his robes torn from the chaos, but his eyes burned with hatred. "No human slave will steal the destiny of the Zerath Empire," he spat. "Take him to the dungeons. Break every bone in his body if you must, but sever him from the Titan." The guards, shaken but loyal, moved in cautiously. The Titan did not attack again, but its glowing eyes followed Jack's every step as they dragged him away. Jack struggled, kicking and shouting. "Wait, I didn't mean to, let me go." But his words meant nothing. Chains clamped around his wrists, and the human mechanic was hauled out of the hangar, leaving the awakened Titan behind. Prisoner of the Empire. The dungeons of the capital were dark and cold, carved into the bedrock beneath the shining city. Jack was thrown into a narrow cell with metal bars and no light. His only companions were dripping water and the sound of distant screams. He sat on the stone floor, rubbing his sore wrists where the chains had dug in. "Well, Jack," he muttered to himself, "you've really done it now. First you touched the wrong panel. Now you've got a giant death machine staring at you like you're its best friend. Great job." He leaned back against the wall, trying to breathe. He had no plan, no allies, and no idea what the Titan wanted from him. But as his eyes closed, something strange happened. The dream darkness filled his mind, but it wasn't the dungeon. Instead, he stood in a vast void of stars. And there, towering above him, was the Titan. Its massive body glowed faintly like a shadow made of starlight. A deep voice rumbled inside his head, not mechanical, but calm, almost gentle. "Do not fear. You are the one chosen." Jack spun around, looking for the source. "Who's talking?" "I am the Titan. I have slept for 10,000 years, waiting for hands like yours." Jack rubbed his face. "Great, now I'm hearing voices. Must be the prison food." The Titan's glowing eyes fixed on him. "Your kind, humans. My creators made me to answer only to them. Your touch is the key. You are the pilot." Jack blinked in disbelief. "Wait, hold on. You're telling me this whole galaxy of lizard emperors and crystal priests couldn't wake you up because they're not human?" "Correct. The Zereth were never meant to command me, only your kind." Jack let out a laugh, half nervous, half amazed. "Well, that explains why the console felt like a busted engine instead of some magic altar. You understand machines?" the Titan rumbled. "That is why you were chosen. The creators foresaw your people's spirit, the will to fix, to build, to endure. That is why I wait for you." Jack scratched his head. "Yeah, well, I didn't sign up to be anyone's chosen pilot. I just wanted a quiet job fixing ships, not whatever this is." The Titan's voice grew firm. "War comes. Already the others gather. Without me, billions will fall. With you, humanity will rise." The stars faded. Jack woke with a start, back in his cell, sweating and breathing hard. "Yeah," he whispered, "definitely prison food. Rumors across the Empire." While Jack sat in the dungeon, the story of what had happened spread like wildfire. Across the capital, whispers filled the streets. "The Titan is awake. It bowed to a human. The Emperor has lost control." Fear and excitement spread to the other star systems. Neighboring empires, hearing of the Titan's return, began mobilizing fleets. To them, the Titan was not a miracle. It was a threat of unstoppable war. For the Zerath, it was worse. Their greatest symbol of divine power had ignored them. Instead, it had chosen a species they had considered weak, primitive, and worthless. The Emperor could feel his power slipping. If he didn't regain control of the Titan, rebellion would rise inside and enemies would invade from outside. And so his anger focused entirely on one person, the human mechanic. The Emperor's interrogation. The dungeon doors creaked open. Guards dragged Jack out of his cell and down a long hallway toward a brightly lit chamber. There, sitting on a throne of steel, was the Emperor himself. His eyes glowed with fury. Jack was thrown to the floor before him. "Human," the Emperor growled, his voice dripping with hatred. "What trick have you played? How did you force the Titan to obey you?" Jack coughed, trying to sit up. "Trick? Look, buddy, I didn't force anything. I touched a panel, it turned on, and now everyone's acting like I stole their crown jewels." The Emperor's claws dug into the throne's armrests. "Do not mock me. The Titan is the destiny of my people. Yet it bows to you. Why?" Jack met his gaze despite the fear in his chest. "Maybe because you've been treating it like some kind of god when it's really just a machine. A damn complicated one, sure, but still a machine. Machines like to be fixed, not worshipped." The chamber gasped. To speak of the Titan so casually was blasphemy. The Emperor rose from his throne, towering over him. "If you are its master, then you will command it for me. You will be my puppet, my key to conquer the stars." Jack shook his head. "Not happening." The Emperor's voice turned cold. "Then you will rot in chains until you obey." The Titan's call that night, locked again in his cell, Jack sat quietly. His shoulders ached, his stomach growled, but his mind burned with questions. Was the Titan telling the truth? Were humans really the chosen heirs to some ancient power? If so, what did that mean for Earth, for his people? As he drifted to sleep, the voice came again. "You must escape. The Emperor will use you to enslave the stars. I will help you," Jack whispered into the darkness. "And if I say no, then millions will die. You have a choice, Jack Rains. But only you can make it." In the distance, above the dungeon walls, the Titan's eyes glowed faintly through the city skyline, as if watching over him. Jack clenched his fists. He didn't want to be a hero. He didn't want to be a chosen one. He was just a mechanic, but maybe, just maybe, that was exactly why the Titan had chosen him. The Zareth capital city glittered above the dungeon walls, but Jack Rains couldn't see it. He sat in his narrow stone cell back against the wall staring at the ceiling. His wrists were bruised from chains, his stomach empty, but his mind was restless. The Titan's words still echoed in his head. Your kind were the ones chosen. Only your hands may command me. It sounded impossible. Humans were newcomers in the galaxy, barely scratching the surface of space travel compared to the great empires. To most aliens, humans were pests, good for cheap labor, not much else. Yet here was a godlike war machine telling him humans had been part of its design from the very beginning. Jack rubbed his face, muttering, Chosen ones, huh? Yeah, right. I fix pipes and patch holes in broken starships. Not exactly hero material. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something deep inside him already knew the Titan was telling the truth. Whispers in the streets far above. The city was in turmoil. Rumors spread faster than the patrol ships could silence them. The Titan bowed to the human. The Emperor lies. He cannot control it. If the Titan chose a human, maybe the humans are more than slaves. For the first time, whispers of rebellion stirred. Lesser species across the Empire, long crushed under Zareth rule, began to look toward humans with new eyes. But not everyone was inspired. To the neighboring alien empires, the news was terrifying. The Titan of Eternity was awake, and no one knew who controlled it. Entire fleets began to mobilize at the border, ready for war. Summoned again, the dungeon doors slammed open. Jack was dragged out by guards, his arms bound in chains. They shoved him into a grand chamber, filled with alien nobles, generals, and priests. At the center stood the Emperor, his scales polished, his robes heavy with jewels, his crown reset on his ridged skull. His eyes burned with fury. Bring him forward, the Emperor growled. Jack stumbled to his knees before the throne. This is the one, hissed one of the priests, the human slave who dares call himself chosen. Jack lifted his head. I never called myself that. Your giant robot seems to think so, though. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. The Emperor slammed his claw against the throne and the room fell silent. You will explain, human, the Emperor said coldly. Why does the Titan obey you? What link do your kind have to its power? Jack opened his mouth, then stopped. He didn't have the answers. But the Titan's voice whispered in his head again, faint but clear. Show them. Suddenly the chamber lights flickered. The air shimmered with a holographic projection. It wasn't Jack doing it, it was the Titan, reaching into the hall with its power. Gasps and cries filled the chamber as glowing images surrounded them. The vision of the past. The hologram showed a vast battlefield among the stars. Gigantic machines like the Titan marched across worlds, tearing through enemy fleets. But beside them were not Zareth, not any alien species present. Instead, they were strange figures, tall, robed beings with smooth skin and bright eyes. The first ones, whispered a priest in awe. The vision shifted. The first ones were building the Titans, carving their forms out of living metal, and beside them were humans. Not modern humans, but primitive ones, dressed in furs, carrying stone tools, watching in wonder as the first ones placed their hands on their heads. Slowly, the humans began learning, building, adapting. Jack's breath caught. That's Earth. That's us. The Titan's voice filled the hall, vibrating through every wall. The first ones foresaw their end. They chose humans as their heirs. The Titans were shaped to respond to human minds, human hands. For only your kind carries both instinct and imagination. Only your kind can create from nothing and repair what is broken. The vision ended. Silence filled the chamber. Jack looked around. Every alien face was pale with shock. The priests trembled, the generals stared, and even the Emperor's claws dug into his throne. No, the Emperor snarled. Lies, trickery. Humans are weak. They are slaves. But deep down, everyone knew it wasn't a lie. The Titan had shown them the truth. The human mechanic speaks. Jack pushed himself to his feet, still in chains. His voice was rough but steady. You all treat us like we're nothing. You laugh at humans, call us primitive. But you don't understand what makes us different. You build your machines and worship them like gods. We take them apart. We fix them. We make them better. We don't quit when something breaks. We grab a wrench and figure it out. That's who we are. He lifted his bruised hands. And that's why the Titan chose me. Not because I'm strong, not because I'm some hero, but because I know how to keep things running, because that's what humans do. The chamber erupted into chaos, some shouting for his death, others whispering in fear, some even nodding in respect. Plans of control. The Emperor rose to his full height, towering above them all. His voice silenced the chamber. Enough. If the Titan answers only to a human, then so be it. This one will serve as its pilot. But he will not control it, I will. He pointed at Jack. Chain him within the cockpit. Force him to obey. Through him, the Titan will be mine, and the galaxy will kneel. The guards seized Jack, dragging him out. Jack fought against them, shouting, "You can't control it. You'll get us all killed." But his words were drowned out by the Emperor's laughter. War on the horizon. News of the Titan's awakening reached every corner of the galaxy. The neighboring empires didn't wait for diplomacy. War fleets began to gather, preparing to strike before the Zirath could unleash the Titan. On distant worlds, humans, scattered as workers, miners, and slaves, heard the rumors. Some laughed, some doubted, but others clenched their fists in pride. A human had awakened the Titan. A human had stood before emperors and survived. For the first time, hope spread among them. The escape that night, as Jack sat chained in a guarded chamber, the Titan's voice returned. "You cannot let the Emperor control me. He will burn the stars to ash," Jack muttered. "Yeah, no kidding. But I'm stuck here in chains, in case you didn't notice." A hum filled the room. The chains around his wrists snapped open as if cut by invisible hands. The guards outside slumped to the ground, asleep under some strange pulse of energy. The Titan's voice was firm. "Come to me. You are my pilot. Together we must stand, or all will fall." Jack hesitated. He had never wanted to be a soldier, let alone the wielder of a god machine. But now he understood the truth. Humanity wasn't an accident in the galaxy. They had been chosen long ago. And now, billions of lives might depend on him. He clenched his fists. "All right, big guy. Let's do this." Toward the cockpit, moving quickly through the silent corridors guided by the Titan's whispers, Jack slipped past the guards. The great hangar doors loomed ahead, glowing faintly. The Titan of Eternity stood waiting, its eyes blazing like twin suns. As Jack stepped inside, the massive machine knelt slightly, lowering its chest. A hatch opened, revealing a glowing cockpit lined with strange controls that rearranged themselves before his eyes. Jack swallowed hard, stepping closer. "Guess this is where my life gets crazy." The Titan's voice echoed warmly. "Welcome, pilot." Jack climbed inside. The hatch sealed behind him. For the first time, he felt the Titan's power flow through him, like the hum of an engine becoming part of his heartbeat. The hangar doors groaned as they swung open, letting in the cold starlight of the capital world. Jack Rains stood at the base of the Titan of Eternity, his boots small against the machine's immense frame. The air vibrated as the Titan shifted like a mountain stirring a wake. Jack swallowed hard. He had never felt fear like this. Not in dungeons, not in human wars, not even when he had been captured by alien raiders. This was different. This was pure, unstoppable power. Power he was about to control. The cockpit hatch yawned open, glowing with an ethereal blue light. The Titan seemed to bow slightly as if offering its pilot a throne. "All right," Jack muttered. "Let's see what you can do." He climbed inside. The interior was more than a cockpit, it was alive. Panels rearranged themselves according to his instincts. Holographic controls floated in midair, responding to his thoughts, his eyes, even the pressure of his fingers. Synchronizing. Jack sat down, gripping the primary controls. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Okay, big guy. Let's talk." The Titan's voice echoed in his mind. "Focus, Jack Rains. Feel my systems. I am your hands. I am your mind. Together we are one." Jack let his instincts guide him. He thought of every engine he had fixed, every ship he had repaired. Slowly the Titan responded. Its massive joints moved smoothly, hydraulics hissing, metal grinding just enough to remind him it was alive. He raised an arm, and the Titan lifted its enormous fist. The air trembled. A city block-sized training construct on the hangar floor was smashed instantly. Sparks flew everywhere, dust rose, alarms blared. Jack laughed, adrenaline pumping. "Yeah, we're gonna get along just fine." The enemy arrives far above the planet. Enemy fleets gathered. Alien empires had heard of the Titans' awakening, and they weren't waiting for diplomacy. Warships moved in formation, their weapons bristling, ready to strike. The Zirath Emperor, still on his throne, watched as their scanners showed ships from 3 different empires approaching. He cursed, pounding his claws against the platform. They moved too fast. He shouted, "Send the fleet! Stop them!" But Jack didn't need orders. He could feel the Titan's systems, sensing the threat before the scanners even blinked. His instincts took over. "Hold still, let's show them what humans can do," he muttered. With a roar that shook the entire capital, the Titan stepped out of the hangar. Its immense feet crushed the surrounding vehicles and infrastructure, leaving the ground trembling. Ships above tried to target it, but its energy shields flared to life, deflecting plasma beams with ease. Jack grinned. "Okay, let's dance." First strike. The Titan swung its arm, smashing an incoming enemy fighter out of the sky. The pilot inside didn't even have time to scream before the Titan's fist obliterated the ship. Jack felt a thrill, like controlling a star-sized engine, but also fear. Every strike could kill millions if miscalculated. "Careful," the Titan whispered in his mind. "Control is as important as power," Jack nodded. He had fixed engines that could explode if misused. This was no different. He thought like a mechanic, not a warrior. He studied the battlefield, anticipating every movement. With precision, the Titan released a wave of magnetic energy, pulling enemy ships into collisions with each other. Explosions lit the sky. Enemy warships tried to respond, firing volleys of plasma and missiles, but the Titan moved faster than anyone could believe. Humanity's ingenuity. Jack realized something amazing. The Titan's weapons didn't have to be used for destruction alone. With a few adjustments, he repurposed its energy systems to disarm, disable, and immobilize enemies. Ships spun out of control, weapons fried, engines shut down. Humans across the galaxy would later call it the Dance of the Titan, a combination of brute force and creative problem-solving. "This is just like rewiring an old engine," Jack muttered. "A little twist here, a tweak there." Boom. He laughed, and the Titan's eyes glowed brighter, humming with resonance. The machine trusted him, more than any Zirath could have hoped to command it. Emperor's fury on the Emperor's throne, the alien ruler's claws dug deep into the armrests. He screamed in rage, trying to send commands to the Titan through ancient Zirath codes. "Obey me. I am your master," he roared. The Titan turned its head toward him, a low hum vibrating through the chamber. With a single gesture from Jack, the Titan raised a massive arm and sent a concussive wave toward the Emperor's palace. The building shook, glass shattered, and guards were thrown back. The Emperor barely stayed upright. "Impossible!" he shouted. "I am the Emperor. I command destiny itself," Jack smirked. "Destiny? Nah, I think you just misread the manual. The battle escalates, the enemy fleets weren't done. Ships from multiple empires fired simultaneously. The Titan dodged, weaved, and countered in ways no one thought possible. Jack's knowledge of machinery let him predict how it would move, where the joints could bend without stress, and which weapons could overheat. He laughed as he made the Titan swing like a hammer, smashing entire squadrons with the precision of a craftsman. Every movement was calculated, every strike effective, and yet elegant. For the first time in galactic history, a human was commanding a weapon that could end civilizations, not with rage, but with skill, creativity, and intelligence. Civilian lives, Jack noticed something alarming. Some enemy fighters had turned toward nearby colonies. Without hesitation, he pushed the Titan into action, creating shields and barriers to protect innocent lives. Buildings were crushed underfoot as the Titan moved, but civilians were kept safe behind energy fields that flickered into place. This isn't just about power, Jack thought. It's about responsibility. I fix things. I save things. That's what humans do. The Titan roared, a sound that echoed across the skies, a roar that made both enemies and allies tremble. Jack felt it in his chest. It was more than a machine. It was alive, and it trusted him completely. A shocking move. Jack realized the enemy command ship was directing the fleet. If he could disable it, the battle could end quickly. Using the Titan's massive arms like mechanical claws, he grabbed a nearby orbital relay and hurled it through space like a hammer. It collided with the command ship, sending it spinning and disabling its systems. Enemy forces faltered, confused, and began retreating. The Titan moved among them, dismantling their weapons without killing the crews. Jack's ingenuity had turned a potential massacre into a strategic victory. For the first time, the galaxy saw what humans were capable of: brains, creativity, and courage, not just brute strength. Victory and awe the fleet scattered. The Zerath Emperor watched from his throne, pale and trembling. The Titan's eyes blazed toward him, silent but commanding. He had lost control, utterly and completely. Jack stepped back inside the cockpit, panting, exhilarated, and exhausted all at once. "You okay, big guy?" he asked. "Systems optimal. Pilot integrity at maximum. Enemy neutralized," the Titan replied. Jack smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Yeah, we did good. Not bad for a human mechanic, huh?" The machine hummed in agreement, a deep vibration that seemed almost like laughter. The message across the galaxy word of the Titan's first battle spread instantly. Across countless systems, aliens whispered in disbelief. A human had awakened the ultimate weapon. A human had protected civilians and dismantled entire fleets without unnecessary slaughter. For the first time, many realized humans were more than slaves, more than pests. They were cunning, resilient, and uniquely capable. The HFY message was clear: underestimate humanity at your peril. Even the Emperor knew it. He had faced the Titan, and he had seen a human pilot in command. His empire's symbol of power had been humbled, not by aliens but by a mechanic from a tiny blue planet. Preparing for more, Jack knew this was only the beginning. More fleets would come, more empires would try to take the Titan. But for now, he had proven one thing: humans could handle what others deemed impossible. And as the Titan's systems hummed around him, Jack felt a strange sense of pride. He didn't want glory. He didn't want empire. He just wanted to survive and maybe, just maybe, show the galaxy that humans were more than anyone had ever believed. The Titan lifted its massive head toward the stars. Its eyes glowed, scanning for threats. Jack tightened his grip on the controls. "All right, let's see what else this galaxy has," he said, a grin spreading across his face. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Enemy fleets from 3 empires, each confident in their power, had gathered to strike the Zerath capital world. Entire solar systems watched from the shadows, fearing the coming war. But one figure stood against them: a human named Jack Rains, piloting the Titan of Eternity. Jack had no desire for conquest. He had no dreams of empire. He wanted only to survive, to protect the innocent, and to prove that humans were more than others believed. But now, billions of lives hung on his shoulders. The final assault, the alien fleets arrived in orbit, weapons bristling and firing volleys of plasma, missiles, and energy beams. Their combined firepower could have destroyed entire planets, yet Jack remained calm. "All right, big guy," he muttered into the Titan's mind. "Time to show them what humans can do." The Titan's systems hummed in agreement. Its massive hands rose, deflecting volleys of energy with shields that glowed like molten steel. Jack thought of engines he had fixed, ships he had repaired, machines he had tuned. Slowly, the Titan moved like a dancer, fluid, precise, and deadly. Every attack the enemy launched was met with strategy. Jack didn't just rely on power. He used ingenuity. He jammed enemy sensors, disabled weapons, and maneuvered fleets into collisions using the Titan's energy fields. Enemy admirals screamed in confusion, watching as their fleets were neutralized without unnecessary slaughter. "This isn't just fighting," Jack muttered. "It's engineering, on a galactic scale." The Emperor's desperation, the Zerath Emperor watched helplessly from his palace. His dream of absolute power had collapsed. His own fleet lay in ruins, his enemies scattered, but the Titan answered to a human, not him. Rage burned in his eyes. "You will obey me," he shouted into the void.
"I am the Emperor!"
"I am destiny itself." The Titan turned its gaze toward him. Jack thought of the human lesson he had learned long ago. Machines are not conquered by fear. They respond to care, logic, and understanding. With a gesture, the Titan moved in a way that blocked the Emperor's warships, protecting civilians and his own people from devastation. For the first time, the Emperor realized he had lost, not because of strength, but because he underestimated a human. Humanity's ingenuity. Jack's mind raced. He noticed patterns in the enemy fleet, gaps, weak points, and overloaded systems. Using the Titan's massive arms and energy channels, he disrupted communication relays, shut down weapon systems, and created chaos among the enemy ranks. This was not mindless destruction. It was precision. Every move Jack made reflected a human's ability to think, adapt, and create solutions under pressure. Ships spun out of control. Missiles detonated harmlessly in the void, and enemy fighters were trapped in energy nets that left them unharmed but immobilized. Jack smiled. "See? Not bad for a mechanic, huh?" he whispered. The Titan's deep hum vibrated like laughter as if acknowledging the compliment. A moment of revelation. Amidst the chaos, a council of alien historians observed the battle from a distant station. They whispered in awe, "Humans. They were not meant to be slaves. Look at their mind, their courage, their ingenuity." The legend spoke true. Humans are the heirs of the first ones. For centuries, aliens had dismissed humanity as weak, inferior, and insignificant. Now the galaxy could see the truth. Humans were not just survivors, they were creators, innovators, and problem solvers in ways the most advanced civilizations could not match. Jack realized this too. He felt proud not for himself, but for what humans represented: resilience, creativity, and the ability to rise when others counted them out. The enemy's collapse. The combined alien fleets were no match for the Titan's strategic maneuvers. One by one, ships were neutralized, forced to retreat, or surrendered. Jack's ingenuity turned what could have been a bloody war into a demonstration of human cleverness and precision. Enemy admirals stared in disbelief. Their finest fleets had been defeated by a single human and a machine they could not control. The word mechanic had never inspired fear before, but now it did. The battlefield was silent for a moment, save for the hum of the Titan and the distant explosions of disabled ships drifting in orbit. Jack wiped sweat from his brow. Well, that's the last of them. For now. The Titan's test. Jack had sensed it all along. The Titan was not just a weapon. It was a test, a measure of humanity's worth. Its creators, the mysterious first ones, had designed it to awaken only for those capable of thinking, creating, and taking responsibility. The Titan's voice echoed in his mind. "You have proven the worth of your kind. The galaxy will remember this day, but this is only the beginning. Greater challenges await. Will you continue to rise?" Jack nodded, feeling the weight of destiny. "Yeah, we will. One step at a time, one problem at a time." The Titan's systems hummed with agreement, and for the first time, Jack felt completely at one with the machine. The Emperor's humbling. The Zerath Emperor stood among the ruins of his fleet, trembling with fury and disbelief. His palace had been spared, but only because the Titan, under Jack's guidance, had avoided unnecessary destruction. He realized something profound. Humans were not to be underestimated. Their resilience, ingenuity, and courage were beyond anything the Emperor had experienced. For the first time, he bowed, not out of submission, but in recognition of humanity's unique strength. "Perhaps we misjudged them," he whispered. Jack didn't hear it. He was already thinking ahead, preparing for future threats, calculating repairs, and optimizing the Titan systems. Humans never stopped thinking, never stopped improving. That was their edge. Sending a message, Jack knew he could not keep the Titan solely for the Zerath. Its power was too great, too significant to be controlled by a single empire. It had been designed for humanity, and now humanity had proven itself. He directed the Titan to transmit a holographic message across the galaxy. "We are humans. We rise not to conquer, but to create, protect, and endure. Underestimate us at your own risk. The galaxy belongs to all who can learn, adapt, and act with responsibility. Let this be known." The transmission reached billions of beings. Across worlds, humans and aliens alike watched, listened, and realized the truth. Humanity was not to be dismissed. A new beginning. With the enemy fleet scattered and the Emperor humbled, Jack stood inside the Titan's cockpit. He felt the hum of the machine through his body, a vibration that matched the rhythm of his own heartbeat. "All right, big guy," he said, looking at the stars. "We've got work to do. Let's make sure nobody forgets what humans can do." The Titan's eyes glowed brighter, and the hum of energy pulsed through the cockpit. Jack could feel it thinking with him, reacting to him, trusting him completely. Together, they were unstoppable. And across the galaxy, for the first time in history, aliens whispered not about humans as weak slaves, but as something else. Something extraordinary. Humans. They rise. Jack smiled, wiping grease from his hands. Guess we finally proved it. The galaxy watches even distant civilizations long untouched by the Zerath or human influence began to take notice. Stories spread of the human mechanic who had awakened the Titan, defeated fleets, protected billions, and forced an empire to recognize the truth of human ingenuity. The galaxy had changed forever. A single human, guided by instinct, courage, and intellect, had shown that humanity was capable of shaping the fate of stars, not through brute force, but through creativity, responsibility, and resilience. Jack knew this was only the beginning. There would be more threats, more wars, more challenges, but he also knew one thing: humans would always rise, always adapt, always endure,